G'day and welcome to another Tools and Stuff review, and as you can see it is of course a Makita tool, and it is a Makita tool that is the first of its kind for Makita. Makita have never made one of these before. And what is that? Well, it is an inverter or a power converter. Different countries call it different things. Basically it takes battery power and converts it into AC power. In other words, DC into AC. But as well as that, it also has DC 12 volt here and USB, and we'll get to all those in due course. But first, let me just tell you a few things about what you can see in front of you here. Why has it got these clips? It does not open. This is not opening up. This is so you can clip it to your other Mac packs. It will go on the top or the bottom of any of your existing Mac packs. You can also put it on the Mac pack trolley. When you put one on the top, these will spring down so that your box can sit flush on the top there. We have two little clips here though that look like Mac pack clips kind of too, don't they? But they're very narrow, they're in the middle there. Talk about those in just a second. So anyway, we have the catches all the way around like you would expect on a standard Mac pack box. Now, it can be used in the Mac pack top and bottom, like I say, when it's not being used. When it's being used, you can only have it on the top of another box. You can't have anything else sitting on top of this, because on top of this, you are going to need one of these. This is the PDC1500 Backpack Battery, which you may have seen reviewed on my channel before. It has 33.5 amp hours of runtime at 36 volt. That equates to just over 1200 watt hours of power, or this amount of batteries. So as you can see, that's a lot of batteries to get up to the 33.5. On the bench there, I've got 6 4 amp hours, a 5, a 2 and a 2.5. So that's how much you get in one of those, and it will take you about 6 hours to charge that when it is flat. And if you're wondering why this one has a different sticker on it, that's explained in this video up here. And if it's not up there because of the device you're watching it on, it will be down in the description. But whoa, tools, that's all good and well. You've got your PDC1200 there with your 36 amp hours of batteries displayed here. But what's that? What is that in the background? What are you hiding from us? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the new PDC1500. That's right. There is now a big brother to the 1200. You can now up it 300 watt hours. So let's take a quick look at that. The PDC1500 is Makita's new backpack battery, and it has the same ConnectX connection. Works exactly the same as the 1200 one, but instead of being 33.5 amp hours like the 1200, this one is, well, it's a lot more. It is 43.55 amp hours. That's 10.05 amp hours more than this, or basically 11 of these 4 amp hour batteries, which is a real shame. Almost 11, because I've only got 10. Damn it. Anyway, that's a lot of juice, and it takes around 7.5 hours to charge both of the units, the 1200 and the 1500, charge with one of these, a DC4001. It runs at 100 volts to 240, so it doesn't matter what country, you just need a different plug on the end, of course. 350 watts at 50 to 60 hertz, depending on what you do there as well, and outputs between 25 and 40 volts at 6.8 amps. Now that runs on both the 1500 and the 1200. And like I said, 7.5 hours for this and about 6 hours for the 1200. Let's get that out of the way for the moment. Now, these backpack batteries aren't one large solid battery. They are made up of cylindrical cells like this. Now, I'm not sure what cells are in here. I'm not sure if they're 18650s or 21700s. This is a 21700. It's a bit mangled, but I believe it's a Murata VTC6A, and it will have come out of one of these. Well, it definitely did come out of one of those. So it's made up of 130 of those. Ding! And if you think that's crazy, having 130 of these tiny little batteries in there, well, they use these in electric cars too. And there's a lot more than 130 of them in there. Anyway, why are we talking about backpack batteries? Oh yeah, that's right. Because you need one of these to clip on top of this, just like this. Arrow. in the top, lines up with an arrow in the top. Push it in, turn it on. We now have a functioning BAC01 inverter from Makita. So now we can finally have a look at just what it does. So it is taking the 36 volts that's coming out of the PDC1500 here and using it to run USBs or AC or DC on a cigarette lighter, or all three at once. If we concentrate first on the USBs, we take a look down here, we have two USB-A ports and two USB-C ports. The USB-A ports are 5 volt at 2.4 amp, and the USB-C are power delivery up to 30 watts each. So a total of 60 watts. Now I know some of you are going to want that to be a little bit higher, but hey, you're not getting 100 with this, you're only getting 30. Next up, next to that, we have, if we turn off that, we'll turn on the AC, we have, unfortunately it doesn't stay open, two sockets here. Now these two sockets may look a bit weird to you. This is what they look like in New Zealand and Australia. They do of course make ones for Europe, for the UK, for Japan, for the US, because in this part of the world this thing is putting out 240 volts at 50 hertz, which we'll talk about in a moment. But if you're in the US, it will of course be a different voltage, as it will be in Japan. Japan 100 volts, US 110, 120 volts. And not only do you have to worry about voltage, of course, when you are in different countries, that voltage comes through at different hertz. So we've got a 50 and 60 hertz button here as well. So it won't even let me change it off 50. You must know I'm in New Zealand. So you can change that between 50 and 60 in theory. It might not work unless I plug something in. Not too sure about that yet. But if you're in this part of the world, it's 50 hertz. If you're in the US, for instance, it's 60 hertz at 110, 120 volts. In this part of the world, it's like 230, 240 volts and 50 hertz. And on the end here, you'll see that we have a good old-fashioned cigarette lighter. Kids wouldn't know that they used to be cigarette lighters now, would they? Anyway, plug in any appliance that used to plug into a cigarette lighter and it'll give you your 12 volts power at 10 amps. Now, what about all these numbers along the top and this button here? Well, these numbers are telling you roughly the output of this thing in watts. 200, 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1200, 1400, 1400 being the maximum. Once you click over 1400 watts, this thing is going to have a little bit of a shit at you. It is going to sound an alarm, which you can mute here, and it is also going to flash on the 1400, and whatever you're running from this thing is likely to cut out. So the maximum output is 1400 watts, as you can see on the front here, but it'll spike up to about 2800. So if you plug something in and there's a bit of a spike from a saw or something, then for a few seconds it will handle up to 2800 watts, but a constant stream 1400 watts. I think we're now at that point where we better plug something into it and see how it goes. So let me go find some things to do just that. Well, I'm going to start off with my phone because it just beeped at me, which means it's down to 15%. So let's plug that in, turn on USB, see if any other lights come on. Phone has started charging. Not enough to trigger the 200 watt, of course, because there's only going to be a few little watts going into that. So let's see what else we can plug in. And let's just move this a bit so we can see everything. What would be quite amusing is to charge the other backpack battery here, the PDC1200, with the PDC1500. Let's see if it wants to do such a crazy thing. So the DC4001 is plugged into both this and this. Let's turn the AC on. Now we should get up to about the 400 light, at least the 200 will come on. But it's a 350 watt charger, so maybe the 400 will come on. So the fan has kicked in on this charger, has a built-in fan. No lights have come on thus far. Oh, 200's just come on. Are we going to get the 400? I think we're going to need to plug some more stuff in. Let's go with a bit more irony. I've plugged in the dual 18 volt charger here. So we're going to use this 36 volt battery to charge these two 18 volt batteries and this other 36 volt battery. And we're going to stick on a couple of 5 amp hour batteries. Now we should expect this to jump up to at least 600. Maybe it might just get into the 800. Let's see what happens. Wait for the fans and everything to kick in. Still checking, working out what's going on. It's jumped up to 400, the light. I can't hear if the fans are going because this one, there we go, up to 800. There we go, the fans have kicked in. So now it's just a giant fan fest in here. 800's just dropped off again. Did you hear that just kick in? That's not this or this. It's the inverter itself, the fan inside that coming on. It uses a bit more power when that comes on as well. It's been kicking on and off. If I unplug one of these, it will probably cut out. Yeah, cuts out pretty quick. Put that back in. This one starts up and bam. Ah, wouldn't that have been good? Any second now it will take off again. There it goes. So as you can see, this as well as these has a built-in fan to help cool it down when it's pumping out the juice. Probably not going to happen when you're below 400, definitely 200 or less. I've got other inverters that are similar. The fans don't work when they're running really low. And now ironically I need to change the battery on my camera. So as you can hear, it's quite noisy with all those fans going. We've got 3 different fans going here. So let's change things a little bit, because we're only running at around half the capacity of this thing, wattage output wise. I want to see this thing, well, for lack of better words, I want to see it shit itself. I want to see it panic when it goes over 1400 watts. So we're going to plug something that I know is 1400 watts or more into this thing and see how it handles it, see what safety mechanisms kick in. So anyway, let's turn off the AC. You can, of course, just turn off one like that, leave the USB running, charging your phone while you're on holiday, while you're at work, whatever, and then just turn things on and off when you need to. So if something is overloading it, you can, in theory, just turn one of these off and that'll then drop lower. But these two probably aren't going to make that much difference to the AC anyway. So chances are it's this that's always going to blow your 1400 watt maximum. I have found this old fan heater, the most inefficient of the heaters, but good news for us, it's rated at only 1500 watts according to the sticker on the bottom, so that's not too far above this thing packing a sad. So will it make it cut out, or will it just handle it? Will this actually run to its full capacity of 1500 watts? Let's take a look. We'll turn it on here and we will turn it on to just fan, see what happens. So it's currently running without heat. And by the looks, not even enough to get the first light to come up. Now don't worry, I won't point the heat at you. We'll fire it away over to the side. It's already hot enough in here. I don't really want any more heat in here, but there you go. The things I do for you guys. Still not showing anything. Let's crank it up to the first heat setting. The lights will start lighting up. First light, 200. Second, 400. Come on, let's go. One more. Come on, let's get up to 600. There we go, 600 watts. Can we get to 800? Can we have 800 watts? Will we stay at 600 watts? So it's pretty quickly dropped down to 400 watts. Well, that's pretty low. That's not using that much power, or this thing isn't very accurate, one of the two. Now, if you want to know how much power is still left in this thing, you can, of course, push the power button there. We've still got 4 lights showing. Each light, remember, is nearly 11 amp hours, running at 36 volts. Right, I think it's now time to crank this thing up to full whack. Let's see, will it shit this thing out? Well, the fan has kicked in. We're up to 1000 watts on the light. So we're still around 500 watts out of whack somewhere. Is this thing only putting out 1000? Or is this thing actually capable of taking more than 1400? Holding steady there at 1000. Should really have the camera up on a different angle so you can see that a bit better, shouldn't I? So not changing from 1000 there. So it looks like I'm going to have to go and find something else. Now, are we able to change the 50 to 60 hertz? No. It knows not to change. It's staying at 50, which is of course perfect for this part of the world. Might be time to go get the electric jug. This is a good sign though, because it means you'll be able to run most grinders and things like that on this thing no problem at all. Because if you've ever used a battery grinder, which I know a lot of you will have, you'll know they go through the batteries pretty darn quick. Whereas this thing, if you had the 1200 on here for instance, and you're running a 1200 watt grinder, you should be able to get an hour's worth of runtime out of it, which is pretty significant compared to the 5 to 10 minutes you might get out of some of the batteries that you use on the tools. I do recall cutting concrete with the Makita 36 volt and 40 volt grinders. I think I only got between about 7 and 9 minutes on 2.5 amp hour batteries on the 36 or 1.5 amp hour on the 40. 7 minutes runtime isn't a lot, but plug one into this and you'll be getting more like an hour, 1500 on this one, so you might get an hour and a half. Depends on your grinder, of course. Most grinders ranging between 600 watts for a really small one up to about 1200 watts for a decent one. But if you had like a 750 watt grinder, then you'll get 2 hours of runtime out of this. So if you need cordless grinding but you don't want to go through hundreds of batteries, then this is an option. But now I think I'm going to have to go and get the electric jug or something else that's over 1400. You see, I can't plug many tools into this because most of them are under 1400, and I don't have that many corded tools left, to be honest. They're all cordless just about. Let me go check the table saw. Okay, so the table saw is 1500 watts, but I'm not going through that again. That's what the heater supposedly was. I've got a shredder behind me that's 2400 watts, but that's a bit tricky to get up on the bench. So just to try and blow this thing and see what it does, I've got an electric jug here. So we are plugged in, AC on. Let's see what happens. Now this thing should definitely blow it, because this should get up to 2000 watts, so let's see what happens. She's on. Straight up, the 1400 is flashing straight away. We're in trouble. What's going to happen? Is it going to cut out? There we go. So it stopped, and as you can hear, a loud beeping noise. To make that beep stop, you just hit anything. Bang, stopped. So the safety cutout does work. As you saw, got about 5 seconds or so of it running above 1400 before it cut out. Experiment done. Okay, now I'm going to try something that I definitely know will be counterindicated by Makita in the manual, but I know some of you will be sitting there thinking it. So let's do it. I've got a feeling though that this will not charge while it's being used to deliver power to something else. I'm pretty sure I've tested that hypothesis before. But let's give it a whirl though and see what will happen. Can we charge this battery from itself via the inverter? Now obviously whatever power this thing uses with fans and lights and everything, it's going to mean there's less going in than there is coming out, okay? You can't make more power. So, you know, if you don't know about that stuff, go Google that. But basically, even if it will charge it, the battery is going to deplete. So, we are currently fully charged just about anyway, because I've only done a few experiments with this thing thus far. But let's see if this will work. AC on. Red light come on. Now that means it's charging. So it started to charge, then realized, oh hang on, I'm putting out power and I'm charging, and so the whole thing has turned itself off. Let's turn it on. Everything all good. AC, no, starts charging. That's what it does when it charges. Red light, that end bar started flashing to say, yeah, I'm charging. But then it realized it's outputting and inputting at the same time and cut out. Oh well, in the famous words of Ned Kelly, such is life. That's probably one of those misquotes. He probably never actually said that. But anyway, something for the Australian viewers to argue about down in the comments. So you can run a lot of hand tools off this thing. Most hand tools will be alright, but some power tools, of course, like large miter saws, table saws, concrete cutters, breakers, that sort of thing, they're going to be a bit too powerful for this thing to run. And of course you can use it for home appliances, great in power cuts, emergency situations, and situations like this where there's just no power. This is a shed I've built, there's no power anywhere near it, and I am polyurethaning the walls. So I polyurethaned this the other day, ran out of polyurethane, went to get some more. Yesterday and last night it poured with rain and I didn't realise that I left the door open. So it's just a bit damp in here. The walls just feel a bit damp that haven't had any polyurethane on them. So I've got a dehumidifier in there. That is, I know from previous testing, it runs around 300 watts. So we've got one light showing on the inverter at the moment, just the 200 one. So if that's 300 watts, it should run with the 1500 watt hour battery, which incidentally is 1567.8 watt hours. So it's good to see Makita rounded it down instead of being greedy like a lot of companies would and rounding it up to PDC1500, which they could have, you know, done. But anyway, it should run for about 5 hours, because if you divide 1500 by 300, you'll get 5. That's how that works. So basically this thing would run an appliance that requires 1567.8 watts for 1 hour. It probably wouldn't quite do that because it'll be using up some power for the fans and the lights and stuff on the inverter. But anyway, I'm going to leave this for a few hours with the dehumidifier running in it, and I've also just remembered this fan, so I'm going to go and chuck this on as well. This is a 100 watt fan, and I'll leave that going, and that should power both of those comfortably for close to 4 hours. So both the fan and the dehumidifier are going now. We've got two lights showing, the 200 and the 400 there on the inverter, and I'll leave that to it. Incidentally, when I first plugged in the dehumidifier, which is rated at 400 watts according to the sticker on the back, but I know runs at 300 watts because of previous testing, like I said, it jumped right up to 1000 watts. The fan kicked in straight away. The fan ran for about 30 seconds with it on 1000 watts, and then it dropped right down. All the lights went off for a couple of minutes, and then that 200 light came back on. So don't panic if when you first plug something in you think it's using more power than it is. Just give it a moment to sort itself out and regulate where it really is and drop down to the actual wattage. Oh, I've just heard the fan kick in on the inverter. It's quite noisy, the fan on the inverter. It's actually noisier than this fan designed for drying floors. Anyway, I got other things to do. If you do have a power cut, or you're at a batch or some sort of tiny home, off-grid, whatever, and you want to run a TV or a fridge, something like that, a modern LED TV of between sort of 32 inch to 50 inch, you're looking at up to 10 hours for that. You should get 6 or 7 hours easy out of most fridges as well. As for charging your phone, you'll get a shitload of charges from this thing, and it uses pure sine waves, so it will not damage televisions and electronic devices such as phones and laptops and what have you. So you can use it for anything, unlike a lot of old school petrol generators which you can only use for pretty basic products. Anything with electronics in them, you could fry them. Not only that, of course, this thing has no fumes. You don't have to pull start it. You don't have to put petrol in it, and it's nice and quiet, pretty compact, can easily just sit next to your fridge during a power cut, something like that. They're very handy things, and they're becoming very popular, and lots of companies are beginning to make them. Anyway, I'll leave this to drying. Okay, so it's been an hour. I need to get this shed finished. We're sitting at the 400 still here. I want to just see what the battery's doing. We presumably have lost 1 bar. Yep. Just the 1 bar thus far. So anyway, now I'm going to polyurethane this, and then I will see you back on the bench. Right, we've got a development here. The AC light flashing away frantically there, which I'm guessing means we are down to 1 bar there. So battery nearly done. I've got a few fans going out here in the shed because it's stinking hot, but it looks like they're about to die. It's just gone 4:30. And so I set the first one up with the dehumidifier at 11, so it's been 5.5 hours of different fans and dehumidifiers and stuff going constantly over the last 5.5 hours. Okay, so I unplugged one fan, just left the floor fan going, got about another 20 minutes out of it. And now she seems to have completely carked it. We've got the flashing light here on the PDC1500 there. So, time to go back to the bench. Now I know a lot of you are going to be wanting a 40 volt version of one of these, one that you can run with 40 volt batteries, so you can clip like say 4 8 hour batteries on there and go from there. You can use this one with the PDC01. Just plonk that down there. So that is what these are for. So the PDC01 slides and clips under there like the other two, but then you flick those up to hold it in place. but the max you can have in that is 4 6 amp hour batteries, so that's not going to run for too long, but a 40 volt version would be quite handy. So that is the BAC01 inverter. Now I haven't told you too much about the PDC1500, but I did do a video not so long ago, like I said, of the 1200. So if you want to check that out, it's up in the top corner. It'll show you all the sort of things that will come with this as well. They come with a backpack harness, they come with adapters to run 36 volt tools, 18 volt times 2, and of course the 40 volt tools. So they're great for putting on your back if you're doing a lot of weed eating and outdoor power equipment-y stuff. There's not a lot more to tell you about this thing. They're not terribly exciting for videos, are they? It just powers something like you're plugging it into a wall. So yeah, works well, does what it's supposed to do. If you want this as a setup and you don't already have one of those, it's pretty pricey. But if you are just getting this because you've already got one of these, probably the 1200 there, then well, it's considerably cheaper than going out and buying a standalone version from another company. And it's pure sine, so fine on your TVs, your laptops, all your electronic devices. So there we go. I'm now gonna stick this on charge for 7.5 hours because she is dead. As you can see, oh, a little bit of life has come back. Oh, it's even running this now. Oh, look at that. Oh no. Oh, hear that? It's telling me. I couldn't actually hear that when it was outside running with the fan. I thought it beeped, but I couldn't hear it. You can turn that on and off, I do believe, with the button here. There we go. If you set this to off, it will stop immediately beeping and it will not beep on every other time you put it on. It remembers the setting, so that's good. But yeah, I turned it back off. So we're back to beeping. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you. Thanks for watching the first video of 2024, the first review, and there will hopefully be plenty more Makita reviews to come, including one we've all been waiting for and another couple we've been waiting for, but more on that at a later date. If you didn't see my update video from a few days ago, go check that out. That was my first video of the year on this channel. If you want to see all the batteries that you saw me pile up earlier, if you want to see those checked to see how many charges I've used, because I've got a battery checker from Makita and I'm going to go through, seeing it's the beginning of the year, and just see how many charges each one's got and check the health of all the batteries. So that video will be up on Builds and Stuff, my other channel, which the link will be down there, and maybe it'll be up in the top corner if I get it done in time. Other than that, I will see you all next time. Roll the credits. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Bink, bink, bonk. Boom, 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 boom.